Hi, welcome to Stretch and Strengthen and Mobilization. Welcome to class. It's going to be a great time. Um, I'm excited today. We're going to focus a lot on pairing areas of the body that support each other. So, for example, today we're going to work shoulders and hips, not only strengthening those areas, but getting a little bit more access to greater range of motion, access to greater control in those areas specifically. So we're going to do our best. I'm going to try to keep time for us so we don't go for an hour and a half. We'll just keep it tight and knit. Um, we'll have a warm up section, a few exercises just to get comfortable back in the body, build a little bit of heat, and then progress from there first into a hip dominant kind of sequence and then a shoulder dominant sequence. And we'll finish off with a couple really yummy stretches and get you on your way. Hopefully great. Okay, so to start, we're going to warm up on your hands and knees. And maybe as a side note, you don't need any equipment necessarily for this class. If you have a lightweight band, or if you happen to have like a cable machine set up in your home or you're at the gym, that'll be good to have somewhere on the ground in front of you. We're going to be doing a little rotation and pulling, but that's it that you need for today. Okay, so we'll start in a tabletop position. Go ahead and bring your hands spread really wide, fingers spread, and bring those hands right underneath your shoulders. This is a really good part of our warm-up, is getting aligned so your body weight is stacked through your bones. You can take a little bit more generous table, getting the knees slightly behind the hips, so even starting to get a little hip extension early on. And let's just start with a few deep breaths. Try to fill up your belly. Bring that breath into your outer ribs. And then at the top of your breath, start to push the floor away. Not rounding the spine, but just engaging the muscles in your arms. Breathe in and out through the nose. If you're feeling like you need to let it go, a couple of big open mouth sighs is great. And just start to feel a connection between fingers, the palms. You want to have like no space under your palms, no air pockets. And then you want to start to feel that engagement muscularly, squeezing all the muscles, straightening the arms, getting a neutral spine. We'll go through 2 or 3 rounds of arching and hollowing, or cat and cow pose. I want you to take this really slow. I know for me, it's a pose that I do all the time. So I'm like, just rubber band. Let's go really slow and try to articulate as many vertebrae as we can with control. So you can start by exhaling. Curl your tailbone down like you're putting a tail between your legs. And then round the middle back. Round the upper back. Push strongly into your arms. Tuck your chin to your chest. When you inhale first, just start lifting the gaze. Pull your chest forward towards your thumbs. Arch your middle back. Lower back, lift the tailbone up. You might even push backwards slightly towards your heels. And then we'll repeat that. Trying to control tailbone, lower back, middle back, upper back. Exhaling. Arching, gazing, reaching, lifting, lengthening. Do one more. Slow it down. Notice any places that you get stuck. For me, I lose a lot of feeling in my middle to upper back. Try to take that even slower and just control the movement. Okay, upon your exhale, just neutralize your spine. It doesn't have to be straight. With our knees slightly behind the hips, we're going to start to lean forward and bring body weight into the hands. I don't want you to sink and drop your hips. Keep pushing the ground away, but lean forward until you feel like your knuckles are turning white. And then let's move laterally. So we're going to go left and right, shifting weight at the shoulders, and starting to push and engage all those separate fingertips. If that gets a little bit much, you can make circles. You can go back, left, forward, right, or any direction that you like. Just a few rounds. I'm already getting nice and warm. It's freezing in my room here, so this is a really welcome way to energize the body. Let's sit back into child's pose. Just got a little opening. And I'd like you to flex your fingers or your wrists up towards the ceiling, towards your face. Keep working on stretching them out. And then lengthen the fingers forward and see if you can lift your forearms or the center of your palms. So do that 3 times. Lift up, point, and press. I think a lot of the ways that we train, strength movements or even like mobility movements are kind of passively range of motion, trying to access that through greater load or, spending a lot of time in just passive range of motion. And I want you to be strong and controlled. I want your joints to understand where they are and how they're working together in unison. This is a nice way to do that. Okay, go ahead and come forward. We're gonna take the knees slightly forward, tuck your toes, eventually come back to a downward dog. So as your hips shift back, keep pushing into the hands so you can elevate your hips, straighten the legs. Let your head come down between your upper arm bones. Imagine like your ear can kiss your biceps. Or for me, your ear can kiss your inner elbows because my biceps are tiny. Let's just take a few breaths. You can lift the heels up. Try your best to lift the tailbone up and back, pushing your head of your femurs back. And then relax the heels back down and soften the knees. So kind of a pulsing, lengthening, just coaxing some movement into the ankles and the hips. All right. Now, as you lift those ankles and heels, I want you to pull your body up and forward. Let your hips extend, find your fingertips, and find a plank. Deep, slow exhale. Feel your abdomen engage, squeeze your butt, and then push into your fingertips to shift back, up, and down. Lengthen through the heels. You keep that soft bend in your knees. Let's do that twice more. Breathe in, lift up, pull. Whole body is tense. All the muscles working together to find and build that plank position. Exhale. And then inhale, reach, lift, lengthen back. Okay. You might widen your feet if you feel a little bit more stable in that position. We're going to be taking one hand and reaching it to the opposite outside heel. So like you're grabbing onto the outside of your shin. Get a little stretch, a little twist. And then replace that hand and switch sides. What's important is that you're not just focusing on the hand that's reaching back, but simultaneously pushing or reaching out of the hand that's on the ground. So you're maintaining that really good integrity from your shoulder through your spine to your hip. These can be a little quicker. 1, 2, 3. Let's go for 5. Last one. Back to downward dog. Let's take a deep breath in. Lift your heels really high. And then as you come forward, bend your knees. As if you're going to come to tabletop, then pause. Hover the knees just an inch from the ground. And I want you to squeeze your shoulder blades together. Let them sink. And then push the shoulder blades apart. Inhale as you do that. You're not letting the abdomen go. You're still firing up the core. But we're just flossing the shoulders. Let's do it 3 times. 2, 1. And then relax. Hands and knees. Come back. Make a few like wrist circles. So the back of your wrists and then the front of your palms. We'll go 3 or 4 of those in each direction. All right, warm up feels super good. Got a couple more things just to prepare for our other movements. This is one of my favorites to get your shoulders, your hips, and your abs, your core, really working together to translate movement. And it's called crab pose. A lot of people teach this. I have a very specific way that I like to do it that I think maximizes the integrity of that shoulder joint. So I want you to come to a seated position. Your feet can be just slightly in front of your hips, about hip width. I want you to bring your hands right back by your tailbone or by your outer butt cheeks. And then I want you to take a deep breath in and roll the shoulders back. So you're not slouching forward, but you're also not overarching and lifting, just a stacked, relaxed position. We're gonna take a deep breath in. As you exhale, I want you to lift your hips, but rather than moving them forward, I want you to lift your hips and slide them back between your wrists. So there's like half an inch or an inch between my butt and the ground, and then you can relax. We'll do that a couple more times just to prep. If you're sensitive in the wrists and that degree of flexion is intense for you, you can turn the hands slightly outward, so like your thumb would be facing your toes. Okay, one more time. Big breath in, shoulders roll back. As you exhale, lift the hips and slide them just slightly back towards your wrists. Hold and relax. Okay, now this next one, we're gonna go all the way into that position. Then we're gonna step the right foot forward and at the same time, step the left arm forward. And then you'll switch, throwing the foot and the arm forward. And then we're gonna go back. Step the right hand and the left foot. Step the left hand and the right foot. Trying to stay in that hollow position rather than lifting the hips and clunking around. I want it to feel like you're crawling like a tiger. Couple times, it feels good, hopefully. It's warming up your wrists, getting your shoulders, your abs turned on, and your brain should be like, hello, I'm awake, right? Okay. Shake out the wrists. If you need to stretch out your legs, do some percussion on the tops of your thighs. That can feel really good. All right, now I want to just do a little bit more for opening our hips. We're going to be doing some deadlifting today, strengthening the hip joints and working to parallel the movement that happens at your knees, your hips, and your shoulders. Okay, and I'm just gonna pause. You can unmute, Carolyn, if you want.
Hey.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Love. So good. I'm just having technical moments. So I'm moving things around. Keep going. I'm warm and loving you.
No worries. Okay, cool. All right, so this is the 90-90 position. So I have started with my feet slightly wider than my hips. I'm gonna let one knee go out or externally rotated, and then I'm gonna take that other leg back behind me so the knee's on the ground. So you can see it kind of forms like a hashtag or a box. This is gonna be where we do a little bit of work. So I want you to focus on turning your upper body, rotating at the waist towards your front leg or whatever is the leg that's towards the front of your body. And we're gonna work on pushing down into your ankle and into your back knee. And as you push down, you should feel a little sense of buoyancy, like you're actually kind of lifting yourself just energetically off of the ground. And we're gonna take about 5 seconds to continue leaning forward, anchoring ankles and knees on both legs. You should feel a pretty strong stretch in your front leg. You might get towards the ground. That's not necessarily the point or the goal. If you are there, you can support yourself and or work on sliding your opposite hand, so across from your front knee, towards a point into the future. And then work on sliding back up. We'll just do a few repetitions of that, kind of coaxing that front hip into external rotation and the back hip into internal rotation. Again, it's not important how deep you go here, but just what you're doing to contain the movement. So you're not rolling around on your hips. You're not just compressing passively, but you're actively reaching up and lengthening forward. Okay, so let's bring the torso back upright. You can use your hands behind you if you need support, or you can try this with no hands. Lift both of your knees and then switch to the other side. And if you need to like readjust on your mat, that's fine. So shin box on the other side, both knees pushing down, both ankles grounding. Take a deep breath in, feel that little bit of lift. And then as you exhale, bring your chest forward towards and over your shin. You can bring that opposite hand all the way out, reaching like you're trying to get cookie crumbs. Oh, a few times up and forward. Breathing in to reset and breathing out to reach. Each time that you feel that breath, you should notice, man, my core is connected, right? All those muscles are working to stabilize and transfer the movement or the energy from one position to the other. All right, let's come back up. Shake out your legs. Boom, 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 boom. Now, if you have that band, this would be where we're going to do a little bit more of a weighted contraction in that position. So I don't have my band with me, which is so funny. But if I did, I would be setting up my shin box. And wherever my chest is facing, that's where I want the band anchored, somewhere around floor height or maybe like 6 to 10 inches off of the floor. You're going to hold the band if your left foot is forward. You're going to hold the band in your right arm. So again, it's that arm that we used to reach. We're going to be doing that same movement. So once you get set up, we're going to go for about like 8 to 10 repetitions. You're going to reach forward, taking the slack out of that band. And then as you reach back, I want you to start pulling the elbow all the way to your back hip pocket or ribs and inviting a little rotation at the top of your body. So we inhale, we reset, we get long and reach. We exhale, we pull and twist. All right, we got 6 more. Inhale down, exhale up and pull. Inhale, exhale. Don't forget about your ankles and your knees, still trying to drive those body parts down into the ground for stability. Last 2. And the goal here is not extreme load or weight, just a little bit of tension or resistance so that we start turning these body parts on. Okay, you can release that band. Go ahead and shift back. And let's switch so that now on the second side, we're still facing the same direction. I know for me, that's already turned on a lot of my hips, like they're burning, which can be a good sign. It can also mean like, wow, those are muscles that might be really tight, or maybe the blood flow is constricted. All of this is working to support more signals and more circulation there. So let's do 8 on this side. Take hold of that band, take a deep breath in, anchor your bones as you inhale, fully reaching forward. As you exhale, pull the band back, lift up and rotate. Inhale, reach. Exhale, contract or row. I thought I was punny by naming this banded rotation because you're rowing and twisting. I know, I'm really funny. Last 2 or 3, take your time. Not about speed, but really about how it feels. Is it challenging? And also, are you controlled in your movements and in your breath? Come all the way up, big squeeze at the top. You can release that band. From here, we're going to work on a couple of hip lifts. Just 1 second. How to orient shin to middle of band. Good question. So yeah, you want kind of the center of your band coming either to the center of your shin or more towards your outer knee so that you're not twisting towards your heel, you're twisting or lengthening more with your shoulders between your ankle bone and your knee joint. If that makes sense. Okay. While we're here, we're going to work on a really cool movement that I think helps a lot of us who don't get a lot of movement variety in our days. So if you sit or travel or do a lot of training that's just in this one direction, this is going to be a nice way to get you up and off of the floor, with or without your hands. So from that shin box, I want you to lift your outside leg and swing it forward. And then lift that outside leg and swing it as far back as you can. Yeah, I'm going to do this to the side, so I'm on my yoga mat. So I'm lengthening, bringing that hip in front of my body, lifting the leg, sweeping it way back. And just try that maybe 3 times. Notice if you tend to like, whoa, really wobble, or you feel like you have to side bend a lot, that can just be a signal that you want to do this practice a little bit more with smaller range of motion. Maybe you just bring the leg slightly up and out and then back. Maybe you do use a hand in the beginning to stabilize so you can feel and start to understand where you need to change. Now that we're here, we'll do that little hip switch and go to the second side. So we already worked this side a lot. Now let's just try to floss it. So lift that back foot, bring the leg all the way forward. There might be a bonus point if you're excited about training your quadriceps that you lift and try to reach your toe and then reach it all the way back. Maybe you can get the leg a little bit more straight, all the way to the front, all the way to the back. Okay, one more time. Oh, yeah, feels really good. So this position, now we're going to get into some extension. If you have, an extra mat or blanket, if your knees are sensitive, this would be a great place to just double up. We're going to go from that shin box position. Level 1, or kind of just the beginning test experiment for this movement, is to bring your hands forward in front of your front shin and then lift your hips. So you're pushing both of your hip bones to straight, pushing both of your feet and ankles into the ground, and then seeing if you can come up to a balanced position there. Then I want you to reach your arms forward and try not to use them as you go back to your hip bones or your butt. And then we'll switch sides. So we do shin box, we reach forward, extend, find balance, use the arms as a counterweight, shift way back. And then we'll do one more on each side. If you don't want to use your hands, if that's okay for you, you can lift up, sweep the arms wide, shift back, bring them together. One more on the other side. Big breath in, and shift it back. Okay, now we're going to add one more movement to get you off of the ground so that then we can get up and do a little bit more complex movements. So I want you to try practicing that same move that we brought the front leg forward. Now that same extension position, you're going to come forward into a lunge or a half lunge. Shift forward. Now push down into both of your hands or your feet and your knees. So you're in this like half lunge position. You can practice even starting to step up from there. That's kind of a nice progression to be able to get up and down from the floor, but it's not necessary. You can take that foot back, lean back, and we'll switch sides. Angles can be interesting here. Some of you might have, a wide variety of control over your angles at which you stand or sit. For me, I'm very mobile in my joints, so I can come up like this. I could step sideways and probably come up and figure it out. But you might want to take time to get stacked. So in this shin box position, you bring your front leg forward, but slightly out to the side so that when you shift up, you have a little wider base of support or stability. And then from there, you might pivot to face forward if you're going to stand. And then it's more like a lunge or a standing split. Come back, pivot, sit back, And let's just do a little wiggle wobble because those hips should be super, super lit up and active and warm. All right. The last part of our hip series is going to be a standing position. So invite you to get up however you'd like. That could be with hands, that could be repeating that same movement that we just did. And then if you have a wall that's available to practice against, or even the side of a couch, a counter that doesn't have sharp points, that's great. It's not necessary, but it can be there just for a reference point. So we're going to stand in a hip distance apart foot position. If you're standing against the wall, your left shoulder should start against the wall, or we're going to work on balancing first on our right leg. So first, what I want you to do is take your left foot back, not into like a super far lunge, and not just 1 foot, maybe 3 feet distance. Start to bend that front knee a little bit and start to shift your hips slightly back underneath your sternum. So you're already getting the weight kind of loaded into the hip and the knee. From here, again, you can use the wall as a balance anchor if you need it. I want you to try to reach your front arm, your left arm, slightly down and in front, and then bring your opposite hand, the right, out to the side or all the way rotated. So we're rotating towards your front bent leg. And if that's like a little wobbly, I'm using the wall to help give me a reference point. Take a breath. When you exhale, swivel. So your arms are going to go in opposite directions. The left hand is coming forward. As you stand up, bring your left knee with you. Find standing balance. And then continue to rotate. Now the right arm is forward. The left arm is back. And you might even look back behind you. When you inhale, we'll reverse. So these first few are going to be kind of slow. We're coming back to that split stance into a rotation. Use your breath. Inhale, lift, push. Switch the leg. Left heel, left hip lifts. Left arm goes back. Twist. Okay. So in normal time, not that the goal is going fast, but it might look like inhale back, exhale up. And you can try to hit those points with precision. What we're doing is working the hip, creating balance, right, in the ankles and knees, but we're also getting a lot more freedom in the shoulders, in the thorax or the rib cage area as we're loading those repetitions. Now I got ahead of myself, I got a little wobbly. So one thing that's important, we'll do this on the second side, is that you try to keep your weight balanced between the center of your foot. So you always want to feel like your control is coming from this outside hip instead of like, whoa, really balancing on your tiptoes, right? So that's why we kept that, that really big opening position here. This gives you the ability to feel your fingers and your toes. Just like this, I want my hips slightly behind my toes so I can feel where I'm balancing and I can control from there. Switch sides. And I'm getting so hot finally that I get to take my hat off. Awesome. So now my right leg is going to be against the wall. The left leg is the load-bearing leg. Take a breath to reset. Step the leg back just 3 feet. Right arm comes down and forward, trying to stay lengthened in the torso, not compressed, but lifted. Breathe in, wrap as much as you can. Could be that the arm comes out to the side. Could be that you just hold your ribs or that you go all the way up. When you inhale, feel. Where's your body weight balanced? Look at the ground. Start to come up, switch the arms. Lift that right knee. And then find that huge rotation at the top. Inhale forward, look, arms swivel, back leg steps, land gracefully. Find that position, then rotate. Let's do 2 more. Inhale to move. Exhale to brace. Inhale to transition. Exhale to wrap it. You can do 1 more on your own, or maybe you do 3 more really quick or really controlled. You can make it a dance. You might just move the arms and try to keep your split stance. That's also an option if you're feeling like the balance, the movement is not happening. Wherever you are, finish those repetitions. Let's come back to a standing position and just shake some stuff out. Not just shake, shake, shake. Shake the feet. All right. I'm feeling good. I hope you're feeling good. I'd like to shift gears. We've done a lot of work in the hips, the ankles, the knees, just all of that lower body. So hopefully your core area is feeling alive and aware. Now we're going to move into shoulders and upper body. So I want to go over a couple positions. We're going to be working on the floor primarily in a prone position, so on your belly. I want you to set up as if you were going to do a plank or a push-up. However, instead of your arms just shoulder width apart, I want you to take your hands just a little wider than your shoulders. If you do that from tabletop, you should be able to look, and your outer shoulder, your inner shoulder should line up with your thumb. As opposed to regular plank, it might be a bit more narrow, okay? So we'll come out to that wide and lengthened table position. I want you to find that neutral back, so we're not overly trying to tuck. Keep the low back slightly neutral and find that sense of push. Remember, we practiced squeezing the shoulder blades together and then pushing them apart. Keep the push. Take a breath here. Exhale all the way out so you feel your lower abdomen contract. Keep that contraction, and now take the elbows and bend yourself down, bringing your belly and thighs to the floor. Okay, so that's how I want you to feel each repetition of your push-up, okay? There's a chance for you to really work shoulders, wrists, chest, everything together. You can do this on your knees. You're welcome to do this tucking your toes, but I do want you to keep the lower back neutral with that focus on the low abdomen pulling in and up. Okay, so let's go for between 5 and 8 repetitions. Breath in at the bottom. Exhale. Straighten the elbows. Find that big reach at the top. Here we go. Keep the abdomen on. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Trying not to let the head sink down. Trying not to let the upper back arch. Right? We want to keep a little bit of squeeze through the glutes. How many more you got? 2. Breathe in. Breathe out. Last one. Slow and powerful. Great job. Give myself a little shout out. That was a great job. Rest. If you need to shake your wrists out, you can. So our push-ups are a great way to just get shoulder strength, get wrist strength, get that core invited in. Now I want to work on a little bit more active range of motion through the shoulder girdle. So we're going to practice this sitting first and then do it on the floor. Imagine if you're in a prone position, right? Your head is going to be neutral to the ground. Your ribs are going to be down. You're not able to really arch on the floor, which is why I like this exercise. I want you to take your hands in front like you're a little monkey clapping. The thumbs stay forward or up and the palms stay facing each other. You're going to reach the arms up, trying not to arch the back, but keeping the ribs down. Then you're going to come back to neutral. Take the arms wide, like a Y shape. Take them up. Bring them back to neutral. Now bend the elbows back and then reach the arm wrist bones back. You should feel the squeeze in the middle of your shoulder blades. So there's forward and up, there's a Y shape and up, and then the elbows bend and just the wrists and the upper arms move. Okay? When we do that on the floor, it's going to get a little funky. So make yourself comfortable. Head goes neutral. So your forehead should be touching the ground. Your chin should be slightly tucked. If that's somehow really, really uncomfortable, you can keep the head lifted. It'll be a little bit more challenging. So, choose your adventure. You're gonna reach those arms forward, thumbs up. Try your best not to let your upper back lift, but hollow. Push the ribs back. Lift that low belly button into your back. Here we go. Inhale to lift the arms up. Come back to the center. Take them wide. Lift slightly up. Come back to center. Bend the elbows. Just lift the wrists up and back. Squeeze the lower or middle back. Come back to center. Let's do 5 more. 1. Y. 2. W. 3. Here we go. 1. 2. 3. 1. 2. 3. What I'm not doing is wiggling around. I'm trying to just keep a very small range of motion. Last set here. Y, W, hands to the ground. Push yourself up. Shift your hips back. Let's take a longer extended child's pose like we did in the beginning of practice. Push your hands down, lift your forearms up, and open your chest. You can let your belly sink towards your heels. You might look up, really opening the front of the chest. Should feel good. If you have any pain, you can certainly soften the elbows, soften the shoulders from the ears, take a little modification. Alrighty, that's looking good, looking really good. Last 2. We're gonna make it in our 1-hour session, yes. Now that we've worked a lot of hips and shoulders, we've got some awareness of how the breath correlates that movement. This is a really typical yoga pose, but we can turn it into a strength and mobility pose. So we're gonna go from downward dog to a plank and have a little practice getting into hip extension, maybe a little bit of rotation. So kind of melding everything together. Go ahead and find your plank position. Now for this one, let's come back to the more narrow stance. So shoulders right over your hands. Feet right behind you. Hips are lifted. You can keep that little tiny neutral spine. Imagine you're not trying to tuck your tailbone to your heels. You're trying to lengthen it to the wall behind you. Start even now. Push your shoulders away from the ground. Take a breath and shift back to downward dog. Head right between your upper biceps. Let's practice this first section by shifting your weight into your left foot. You can even bring that foot into the center of your arms. As you inhale, I want you to draw your right heel up like a puppeteer is lifting it with a string. Toes, I want you to keep them facing down. First, we're going to practice the curl. So as you exhale, first bring your knee to your rib cage, then pull your body, lifting your back heel towards that top of the plank. See if you can keep the knee touching your rib cage. Push into the fingers, shift your hips back, let the lift happen from your leg, and then come back down. Okay, noted. Socks in yoga doesn't really help, makes it way too hard. We'll practice that same thing on the other side. This time bring your right leg between your hands. Imagine that puppeteer is just lifting your leg from a string, heel up, toes down. Exhale, thigh and knee meet. Inhale, pull your body forward, Shoulders are pushing away from the ground, hold, and then inhale, shift it back, lengthen it up, and exhale down. You've probably done that move a lot of times if you're a yoga practitioner, totally great. Now we're gonna add a little bit of extension in the back and a little bit extra rotation at the front, okay? You can move with me at the same time. Find your downward dog. We'll start on the left foot. Inhale the right up high. Keep pushing actively through your arms. And now lift your heel and your toes up and open. So you're looking at your right armpit. You might even bend your foot. If you're close to the wall, you can bend your knee and use your knee to find the wall and use your toes to give you a little openness through the upper back. When you're ready to exhale, reposition to face forward, thigh to chest. Pull yourself forward and see if you can bring your knee all the way to your opposite elbow. All the way. Come back, re-extend, lengthen out. Exhale, come back to center. Second side, we're going to bring the right foot to the center. Inhale the left foot. Now you're not going to have the wall if you're practicing next to it. Lift the leg, open your body, look to your left armpit. Keep pushing out of your hands. You can bend the back knee, find length. Then return, curl back to center, thigh to chest. Pull your body forward, exhale, bring your knee to try to find your opposite elbow. Inhale, reach and lengthen. Exhale, reset. Okay, 2 more. We're gonna go together, pretty much in silence, just so we can both practice our breath. Take it as slow as you can with control. Left leg starts. So right leg goes up, breathe in. Lift, lift, lift. Lengthen. Use the breath. Control. Center. Curl. Twist. Re-extend. Reset. Switch sides. Breathing in. Opening, opening, opening. Lots of control. Imagine your shin box. Exhale. Center. Push. Twist. Keep pulling your core up. Re-extend. Back to center. You can do one more if you'd like. If the wrists are intense or you're feeling taxed in the upper back, just take hero's pose. Rest your hands on your thighs. Close the eyes. And feel all those amazing muscles, ligaments, all the nerves that you just worked so diligently to connect. See if you can go through the flow, even in your mind, one more time. Once you've completed that final round of both sides, we'll just come back to the center of the mat. Face whatever way you'd like. Cool. Lots of heat. Hopefully lots of feedback is happening in your body at this point. That's the whole point of this class, is to strengthen and mobilize, right? We want the brain to be really deeply connected to the work that we're doing so that your body can remember and then integrate that as you go about your day and potentially do other, strengthening exercises. So I do want to finish with one last little push. We've got 2 minutes left. Forearms. We're going to use our forearms as a really, really long base of support to help us find a little bit more strength in what's called the flexion of your arm, right? The arm moves up away from the body. We have the potential to turn on all of these really, really beautiful muscles, the serratus, and lots of other ones, the lats. So we're going to be doing a body plank in that position. And I want you to try it in a couple of options. One would be to do this on a bench or a table, or even on the wall. And then the other would be to do it obviously on the floor. That's where you're going to have the most gravity or challenge. So you get to pick if you're feeling tired or if this is tends to be a weaker area for you. Putting it on a bench or on the wall will be best. You're going to have your hands and elbows shoulder width apart. That same idea of the reach that we found, where you're not rounding your back, but you are actively pushing away. I want you to try that. You should feel your abs, your ribs and your abs go, oh, everything should get tight. So up against the wall, you'll be facing the wall and moving your body at like a 45-degree angle. So it's a little hard to show here at this angle. If you're on a bench, you'd be here, right? Trying not to round or arch, but stay firm. I'll show on the ground what I'm talking about. Come into that position, whichever variation you're doing. And we're actually going to walk the feet slightly away from your elbows. So you're slightly off stack. Shoulders are behind your elbows. We're going to inhale to push onto the toes, push into the fingers and wrists. Exhale to reach the heels back. And try to keep that really solid line of energy from your abs to your thighs, to your heels, and out through the crown of your head. We're going to go for 5, 4. Breathing in to come forward. Breathing out to feel supported. Last 2. 1. Come forward. Lower onto your belly. Let's rest the ribs onto the ground. Take the hands a little wider and slightly back by your ribs. Push the toes down into the ground as you roll the shoulders back. You can come up into either a modified up dog or cobra. You might even take the hands a little further out for more of a seal position and just invite as much or as little back bend as you'd like. I like to do these little wiggles. It makes me feel more like a seal, like I'm hanging out at the beach, just relaxing. And then go ahead, we're gonna bring the hands, stacking them one on top, turn a cheek to one side, and just take 5 breaths for yourself. Those breaths, you can direct them through your nose, try to fill up your lower belly, your lower back, your ribs, even into the upper back space behind your heart area. When you exhale, just fully let the breath drop. A couple more like that. Lift your ankles, bend your knees so your feet face up. You even take the knees a little bit wider. And just windshield wiper, bringing your shins to one side at a time. Hopefully you feel awesome. Maybe a little tired, maybe a little challenged, maybe motivated. Maybe you're intrigued by what you discovered about yourself in today's session. Hopefully all of those are true. Let's push back gently into that tabletop position. You can make your way to the ground. So happy to practice with you. Thank you so much for creating time on a Sunday to dedicate to yourself and your body and to me. It's really a sweet gift. And I look forward to sharing some more hacks and tricks and being in the practice together in the coming weeks. So, peace out for now.